Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on another exciting episode of Hangar Talk with Tony. So the agenda for today's Hangar Talk, we're going to talk about a little bit about why we're here, go over some ground rules, tell you a little bit about who Drone Brothers are, and then we're going to take a deep dive into, or a shallow dive into Drone Deploy Toolbox, the layering options, exports, and reports. So why we're here. Our mission here at Drone Brothers is to educate and empower our pilots nationwide. We're in one of the greatest growth markets on earth, and we're in the process of building the best pilot network in the country. Our vision is to create a win-win partnership with our pilots, not to join the race to the bottom. Some ground rules I'd like to go over. We want to respect everybody's time. So we're going to try and keep this to right in an hour or less. But if anybody wants to stay on and has more questions or wants to discuss anything further, we can do that. But we'll try and keep the presentation to an hour. Let's try not to talk over each other. You can either ask a question using the chat box, or we will have certain areas where we have times for question and answers, and they'll be going after each basic section. We'll have a little question area. So Drone Brothers is a leading provider of nationwide drone services to many of the largest and most respected construction firms in the industry. Some of our main customers are Ryan, Oliver Chatcher, Arco Murray, Conlin, and Gray Construction. So let's, without further ado, we'll jump into Drone Deploy.
Through the chat box, can people kind of respond back? How many people are familiar with Drone Deploy, have some experience with Drone Deploy? Either, I guess, if you're on the screen, give a thumbs up, or in the chat box, you want just a yay or a nay in the chat box, just so we get an understanding of who's used Drone Deploy or some kind of mapping software in the past. So Tony, let's give a quick, for those that aren't familiar with Drone Deploy, just kind of a quick background on who Drone Deploy is and what they do and all that kind of good stuff.
Drone Deploy is one of the leaders in the construction mapping industry, I guess you would say. We use it quite a bit to fly our sites as far as doing the photos, videos, and our mapping. With the Drone Deploy, we use that for giving other clients their shots that are the same every month or every time we go out and fly. So we use that for their progress, so they can simply look through the same shot or from the same angle and position each time and see what's changed. And then we have, of course, the hand-flown files, but Drone Deploy gives us our stated ones that we do each month. So the first thing in the top toolbox we were going to go over is we're going to go over the tools that when you open up Drone Deploy and you have a map selected, the tools are on the right-hand side of the screen. And the first one is just a simple location marker. Pick on that and you can just drop it for a note or a location. You just put a peg there. You can name it location or whatever. You can change the color, and if there is an issue with it, you can add an issue. Click on the add issue, and then you can put whether it's an observation or if it's a safety hazard or missing a planned deviation. The client can go through and pick which one they want, what category it falls under, and then also give a description of it, give it a severity, and assign a cost to repair if they so choose, and open whether it's an open issue or closed, whether it's been fixed. The reason why we're going into Drone Deploy today is so that our pilots, our pilots, can have a little more understanding for the guys that don't do a lot of what Drone Deploy can do when you go into a trailer and talk to a program manager or site superintendent, and you're showing them our offerings of what we can do. You'll be able to, show them all the different features that they are probably unaware of, that they'll be able to use Drone Deploy for, not just looking at a map.
A couple questions here. So I don't know, again, what everyone's experience is on the phone as far as experience in the construction world versus doing commercial work versus doing residential work or solar panel inspections. Again, by a show of hands or just through the chat box, do you guys all have some of you have experience in the construction world or dealt with general contractors on a regular basis, or is this construction world new to you guys as well? And you guys, none of you guys are mic, so if anyone wants to add in any comments or whatever as well, we open the floor for that. Because one of the challenge is that we face with the construction space is these guys, they understand what pretty pictures are, taking pretty pictures from four corners of the site, but they don't really understand what the data and what cool things that software like Drone Deploy can do. So our job, us at Drone Brothers, and you guys, if you're out flying for us, our job is really to spend kind of educating these guys. How do we teach project managers and superintendents? Because what we found in 9 years of doing this is when we show them an image like this map image that Tony's presenting to you guys today, usually their jaws drop and usually they say, I never knew drones could do that. And we want to take you through all the tools so you're educated so that you can then go out and help educate the PMs and the soups. Because again, what we found is once they see an example of a stockpile volumetrics or earthwork being done or cut fill analysis or taking a simple measurement in the software, again, we usually get a lot of, wow, I didn't know that, or wow, that's a great feature. And they typically will upsell themselves to doing mapping. Because again, we might get contracted to take pictures of the job site or do pictures and some videos. And again, once we show them the mapping software, the whole conversation changes. So if you guys are not familiar with Drone Deploy, we want to, whole point tonight is to give you guys a quick overview of all the features, but they got a great self-help thing online to learn more. So we'd encourage you guys to get to know all the features as well. So go ahead, Tony.
The next item in the toolbar was a distance tool. And if you look on this map, they had a need to put the plastic netting around this area. So before they did that, instead of going out with the wheel and walking it and figuring out how much they need, you could simply put down some points around here, and the tool will give you length of it, 684 feet they would need to do that, because it actually shows you the surface train. So you could also use it for other things. If you look on the left-hand side of the screen, it shows you what that surface train is doing, that's a surface profile. And then like all the other ones, typical to all of these, you can add them, make it an issue and add issues. You can change the colors and you can give them a name. And it's a very simple measurement tool where they could, instead of someone having to go out there and walk it, especially if they have to do a large perimeter or whatever, they can very easily figure out how much material they need by doing that.
Yeah, these guys are pretty old school with the way they do stuff. Most of the superintendents are kind of getting up there in age. In fact, I just saw an article today on LinkedIn about the age that we're kind of aging out in the construction space, that we're getting a lot of people that have been doing things the old way a long time and have a lot of experience, and they're getting concerned now they're not going to have a lot of good people in the construction world in the next few years as people retire. So a lot of you guys are old school, and you would think they'd be embracing or using this kind of technology, but they're still, the way we found out about or tested out this tool that Tony's showing is, I actually went out on a job site here in Detroit, an Amazon site, and one of the project managers was walking around with a tape measure in one hand and a can of spray paint in the other hand, measuring how much concrete they needed to break up on the site. And this was early on and for Drone Brothers, and I said, well, let's you do it your way, we'll do it the high-tech way. And we kind of met up a couple of days later and found it took him a whole day of going out and measuring all the concrete that needed to be busted up, and we did it in a 20-minute flight and probably 4 or 5 hours of processing time through Drone Deploy. And we were within plus or minus 3% of each other as far as what the correct numbers were. So again, it's just educating these guys and teaching them kind of the newer ways of doing things.
I have a question about this process, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Speaking to your point about educating, the older folks that have been doing this for a while, are we as pilots going in and making all of these annotations ourselves, or are we just showing them kind of the process so that they are capable of doing this themselves?
Yes, you would be showing them. This is just so you guys are familiar with the product, so you can show them how to use it. Because all these tools are mainly for the project managers and superintendents and stuff, and their crew to be able to annotate, use these maps like they should be, not just as a picture, but annotate them, mark off things that they need, and then anybody on their team can go in there and open it up and see what it is, and they can just simply click on something. So they'll see this, you can just click on it and they'll know the information is right there, pops up for them,
We've been doing this for 9 years. And what we've learned in 9 years, I can't believe we're still doing this 9 years later. The education is the most important piece of this whole puzzle. We're spending time prior to these guys signing up. We hope that they've learned, we've taken them through kind of a demo of what Drone Deploy does and what we do as far as all the services we offer. If we don't get a chance to do that, when they come on board, we take a superintendent and a project manager through a demo very similar to what you guys are going through today to show them all these tools and features. We can then set up a login and a password for them so they can have access to all this stuff as well. So your job as a pilot, if you so choose to do it to help out, if you're comfortable going into the trailer and you're comfortable talking their talk and taking them through a demo, we're all for that. It's not a requirement. We're not going to force this on anyone to have you guys have to do this kind of stuff. But if we can all work as a team to educate these guys, in the long run, it's only going to lead to more business for us, because if they can learn how these tools work, and they will never go back. They will never, once you show a superintendent how to do this and how these easy tools are to use, they will never go back to the old way of doing things. It's like asking any of you guys to go back to turn your iPhones in and go back to an old bag phone and just run your life on a bag phone from 25 years ago. You'll never do that. So again, we ask if you guys want to help out and you're comfortable doing it, walk into the trailer, say to our superintendent, hey, by any chance, have you logged into your Drone Deploy account yet to take any measurements or to look at the stockpiles? If they say no, don't know how to do it and you want to show them, fantastic. If not, just let someone know on our end. We've got people that'll take them through a upgraded demo as well.
Andy, I have a question.
Yeah.
Corey here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, some of the guys, I know some of the guys I'm with on the Richard Charpentier show on Sundays. Drone Deploy is your flagship, basically. That's what you use for all your construction. You don't use Pix4D or any of the other.
No, so there's Maps Made Easy, there's Pix4D, there's Drone Deploy. Those are, I think, probably the three biggies out there that most people know about. We've got an enterprise license with Drone Deploy. We started off, like many of you guys, we started off 9 years ago. I remember sweating bullets, having to talk to my team here. Oh man, we got to sign up for a Drone Deploy license. It's $99. How are we gonna come up with $99 a month to pay for this thing? And then it went to then it went to a $299 a month plan. Then it went to a $499 a month plan, and we're in the tens of thousands of dollars a year plan right now. So Drone Deploy is the best. We think they're the best. The customer service, the ease of use, their full package. That's who we choose to go with. So we're on an enterprise plan, which allows us to have unlimited pilots on our plan. We create accounts for all you guys when you come on board to do a job for us, and then we can also create logins for our PMs and soups to use as well. Does that answer your question, Corey?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The next one on the list here is the area tool. And you'll see that a lot of these are similar. So let's say they needed to know the size of this retention pond. They could just simply, with a few clicks, figure out where they're at and I'm just doing this real rough for demo purposes. But right there, it gives you a that it's 5.58 acres. And like everything else, you can add it, make it an issue. If you turn something into an issue, it automatically turns it yellow, makes an observation, then you can change it as a planned deviation, safety hazard. Maybe you want to call this safety hazard, and retention pond requires netting or something, some kind of guard. And then you can turn that off as well, and then it would just go back to your normal area call out. Then the main thing we get, and this particular map doesn't have a whole lot, but is our the volumetrics, where we talk about stockpile volume. And by simply putting some boundaries around, you want to make sure you go outside of your stockpile onto your flat area around it. I usually make it a triangle. There's different fits you can use. You can do lower point, lowest point. I go triangulated, which pretty much makes tries to make a flat plane around it by your surrounding areas. This will give you the area that you're in, the cut and the fill, and net volume, and then you can assign in a material type. You can change it from a digital surface model to a digital terrain model. And then in here, you can click on the lower middle and the bottom, go to the model view. Takes just a second to generate. And then you have a 3D model that you can rotate around. And you can see the building. Now that building is just all shot NIDAR, so you're not gonna have good sides, but if you wanted to build a model, you would just take more photos of the sides. But right now we're just looking at for the stockpile, so the volume.
And for those of you that, again, that aren't familiar with the construction world, the typical way of doing a stockpile right now is kind of old school. Like probably in the next year to 2 years, it's gonna go away. You've got surveyors that are walking around with a GPS stick in their hand. They got to walk on top of these stockpiles. So you get into some cold temperatures and some ice temperatures and some bad winters and everything else. It takes time. It's dangerous. It takes a long time to get the results back for these things. And they use these measurements to know whether the trucking companies that are moving dirt, hauling dirt off the site, if they're charging them the right rate for every truckload of dirt cost money to haul away. That's probably one of the most expensive things for a construction company is moving dirt from one side of the site to another side of the site, or moving dirt from taking a stockpile and actually transporting off site. So they have to go on a trust system with the tickets that get issued by the truckers when they drive away, that they have X amount of quantity of dirt they're taking away, or they got to rely on their surveyor to come show up, and their surveyor could charge them $1,000 or $1,500 for a day's work to come out and walk around and manually capture the stuff, where we can go fly it, we can capture it, we can deliver it better, quicker, faster, safer for these guys. But again, most of these superintendents don't even know that this tool exists. And if we can show them what you guys see in your screen right there, it's usually a wow factor. It's usually, it always leads to more questions about, oh, how accurate is this? And their ears perk up and they all want to know, yeah, how can I start adapting this technology for our job site?
Once you've created your stockpile analysis here, they can assign different materials to it. Right now, they have to add what they want. They would just pick new material. It's set for the user to pick. So you could call it, number 2A stone or whatever it may be. And then, like I said, you can change between a terrain model and surface model, and then how it's figured for the flat plane.
Just a quick question about this. So when we're doing those maps for you, that volumetric analysis, can that be done with the basic, the maps we've been doing with you, or do we have to, would that be a more like advanced map to be able to do that? Like, because I've seen some crosshatch patterns, or is that just what's done with the maps, that kind of the basic fast maps we've been doing for you?
Now, this can be done with any of the maps, relative accuracy and absolute accuracy. These maps are relative accuracy to themselves. So whenever they take this map will be accurate to itself as far as that stockpile, when we do a measurement, will be accurate. If they wanted to, absolute accuracy requires to use ground control points, and then we would take more. So it depends on the level of accuracy, and if they need to pull it into, export it from here and bring it into some other software, their GIS software or whatever, then it's better to have ground control points. But for simple annotations, as far as they just want to know how much material is there, just to cut and fill, then you could do it just from our regular maps. Now, if we know we're doing stockpile analysis, I usually have the pilots, besides flying the map and getting all your nadir shots, I have them fly around the stockpile with the camera at a 45 or 60-degree angle and get some shots from around the sides. And we upload that right with the rest of the map files. And then it just gives you a much tighter point cloud and gives you a more accurate reading on your stockpile. But you can do it from just a simple map.
Well, so Tony, there's two, just to completely finish answering the question. There is basically, if the maps the pilots are normally flying, they're going up. Is there a crosshatch to those maps, or they're just normally going back and forth, landing? Are they doing what's called, is it called a crosshatch, or what's that model called?
Most of what we do on the normal one is just a regular lawnmower pattern. But if they want more accuracy, then we'll do the crosshatch, where the drone will fly its normal pattern, then it'll fly another one 90 degrees to it, perpendicular. And it just gives you, more data points, a tighter point cloud, and you'll get a more accurate map. But if they're not doing any stockpile analysis or anything like that, we normally just do a regular lawnmower pattern.
And if you guys want really accurate maps, again, we're not there yet with these PMs and soups. We got to teach these guys to walk before they're going to run. And again, they're not looking for, in most cases, they're not looking for exact centimeter level accuracy on stuff. That's going to come. That's going to happen the next year or two, where they're going to be relying on this stuff every single day. So going back and forth and just doing regular flight will get us some good accuracy. Doing the crosshatch will give us a little better accuracy. If we really want to get pinpoint accuracy for these guys, because it's really important to them, we can lay down what are called ground control points. So for those that don't know what a ground control point is, think about an X. It's just an X. It can be as simple as taking two 2x4s and putting them in an X, painting them red, and putting those around 4 or 5 different areas around the job site. And then what we have to do is they have to get their surveyor to take one of their little surveying GPS devices and stand right on top of where the X's cross, and get the GPS coordinates for each of those ground control points. They then give us those GPS coordinates. And then when the drone's flying overhead, it can see the red X, and Tony's team, when we do these maps, can actually click on where that red X is, insert the GPS coordinates that they gave us. And if we have on a site that's 100 acres, if we had 4 or 5 of these ground control points, this will allow us to give them centimeter level accuracy, as far as the accuracy of the dirt being moved, the cut fill of the dirt changing from one site to another, and the measurement of the stockpiles. But we're not there yet. And in 9 years of doing this, we've had, I can count on one hand how many GCs have asked us to do ground control points, but that's coming. That's again, it's the education process and getting these guys to know what to ask for. And once they do it, they'll never go back to the old way of doing it. In fact, there are companies now we're looking into that have electronic ground control points. Think of a base on a baseball field. It's about the size of a base on a baseball field. It's got a little solar panel on top. It's got a button to turn on. And you literally keep these in the back of your car or truck. You get out to the job site, you turn the button, you turn them on, you throw these things down on the ground in 5 or 6 different areas around the site. They will act as a ground control point with the GPS coordinates, and they'll get that beamed to your phone. You'll go fly the job site. When you're done flying the job site, you'll go back and collect the ground control point data from each of those bases, upload them to your phone, go back to your house, upload all the data to Drone Deploy, and we won't even have to rely on asking the superintendent to get their survey company involved, because as soon as they get their survey company involved, it turns into a $1,000 bill or a $1,500 bill, and it turns into a week later they're gonna get the results back, and we're gonna turn this around and give these guys the results back the next day for things that they want, which is going to mean a win for us, which is going to mean more business for us and for you guys, because the more times we're flying, the more money we all get to make. And I don't want to lose this point either. We get hired typically, we get hired anywhere. It used to be one time a month we were called to go out and do jobs. Then it became 2 times a month became the norm. Now in a lot of our jobs, we're getting hired 4 times a month, once a week. There's some jobs we're out flying twice a week, 8 times a month for clients. And in the last 9 years, it's changed that we're now being asked to fly more often to capture kind of the big picture. So the big picture means we're starting a job. They have to turn in photos, videos. They're starting to use the maps now. And if we're doing that twice a month and the job lasts for 18 months, that's 36 flights that we're getting paid for. That means we have to pay you guys for 36 times flying. I believe that when this thing all plays out, you're going to, over an 18-month project, you're going to, instead of flying 36 times, you're going to fly 50, 60, 70 times for these guys, because once they understand how this all works, they're going to want you to fly more often. They're having us fly, and we're having you fly for the sake of the owner that they're building for. That's who's asking for the pictures and the assets. These GCs have not gotten to the point yet where they're understanding the use of how important the use of these assets are going to be to them and their own internal team to save time and save money. Does that make sense?
Andrew, Ron here.
Hi, Ron.
A question for you, and you too, Tony. Once we start flying these sites to where they are going to want ground control points all the time for whatever volumetrics, or DEMs, are you guys going to provide us with like propeller arrow, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, so we're looking into. So yes, long answer is our goal is to either have aero propellers that we have in inventory, that when you guys start a new job, my goal in the next year is when we start a job, we're going to onboard you as a pilot. We're going to send you 4 or 5 or 6 aero points. Or Tony actually interviewed another company this week that's got something similar. We think it might be better than aero points. We're going to send you guys a half a dozen of these things. You'll keep in the back of your car, and it will become standard practice that we'll show up and we're going to deliver. We're going to give these guys a turnkey delivery so that they cannot be without us, and they'll never go back to using the old school way of doing things. But until that happens, we're going to have to go old school and get them to throw down 2x4s or some other kind of ground control points to get them to understand this. Corey, you've got experience with construction as well. Are you on the job you're doing right now? Are they this sophisticated with any of this stuff, or they're just looking for pretty pictures right now?
No, I'm doing it for a developer in Atlanta, and all he wants is 20 pictures a week. I know some of the contractors though do use ground control points. They do some of their own in-house stuff, some of the contractors around here. Yeah. But like you say, it's a slow process.
So like Tony, like Pepsi Mustang that I'm doing now, eventually, I know they have a pretty big hill in the back there that they keep wanting to see as far as, the digital elevation. Would that be like probably a prime place to have them, right?
Yes.
Yes. This is the site you're speaking of.
So Ron, are you just noticing the pile that's building up right now? Or have they mentioned something about those piles, and are they smart enough to ask about this stuff, or you're just noticing that now?
No, I usually do a test run of all my data and stuff, and I know I see the ones that you guys run too, and I've actually put in some contours and some of my stuff just to see the elevation. Now to the far right of the picture, that's pretty high from where it is down on the bottom. I want to say it's probably, I don't know, a good 20, 30 foot higher, clear at the right, back where the snow looks and stuff.
Yep.
Back in there compared to down in the bottom of the pads. But I
So
know we have what, Tony, we have, I forget how many around there set up for them. And we use them every once in a while, but
So, yeah, this is one of the projects where we had, they had a need for us to do some accurate stuff and be able to tie pull our exports into some other software. So in that case, we needed to use ground control points. So let me turn them on. So if you look here around the perimeter, there's 13 ground control points that we used. And in this case, they had their surveyors go out there and they used simple, like a lid for a 5-gallon bucket that was orange, and they staked them down. And then they had their survey give me the center point, you know, all the data from each one, latitude, longitude, and elevation. And then they keep them there and they put netting, protective netting around it so that nobody disturbs them, so that we can use them when we need to. And then when we have ground control points, I have to take all that data for each point in a CSV file and import it into Drone Deploy with the map images. And then it'll display them. And then I have to go through and tag each one and select where it is on the whatever. For instance, let's say this one, I was going to tag this one. It would come up and it would show me whatever photos, like all your map photos that point falls in. And then I would have to tag each one of those photos and say, this is the center of that point. And then from there, it will calculate it and rotate it and snap it into real world and absolute accurate mapping.
Hey, Tony, how many pictures do you have to get in there?
I think it's, when I do it, I believe it's a minimum of 3 that it's looking for at least per point. Usually we get more than that with the overlaps that we're using. We usually have anywhere from at least 6 or 8 photos that point is in. Some of them are not.
What's the rule of thumb for number of ground control points per acre? Is it, if we have a 100-acre site, how many ground control points do we need typically on a 100-acre site in order to get accurate measurements? I think it's someplace in the 4 to 5. I think it's per.
Yeah.
I think it's about 5, because Hector had a question about that. I believe, Hector, it's about, we can get back to the answer. I believe it's per 100 acres, you need 5 to 6 ground control points scattered throughout the
and
site.
depending on the terrain too, Andrew, it depends on the terrain too.
Yeah.
So how big is this site?
227 acres.
This is a big site. So Ron, question for you. How did this whole thing come about where they even learned about ground control points? Was this something you brought to their attention, or had they asked you? Was someone there smart enough to kind of ask the questions?
Your partner Tony there was involved in that, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, they asked me, Andy, and then I told them I would need them to have their surveyor, you know, place the ground control points. And I told them that it would have to be something that, because they told me they would want me to do this map with the ground control points like quarterly.
Mhm.
And then the other times they don't need it. They just need the regular map. So I only process the ground control points when they tell me. And what they'll do is they'll take the protective netting out from around them so that we have a clear shot of the target. And then each time they want that, we'll do it. But I told them they needed to put however many they could, you know, at least we shot for 15 and we ended up with 13 good ones.
Perfect. Tony,
And
can you turn these points off? Can you show these guys the compare feature? This is a great map to show the compare feature too. A lot of people don't know about that. So again, this is one of these wow factors. I did a demo earlier today to a team of PMs and superintendents out in California, and we showed them this compare feature. And again, this is more than enough to close the deal on for these guys, for them to understand how impressive this software is, because you can literally take a slider and go back to a date from last week to compare to this week, last month compared to this month, and basically with the push of a button, this is what these guys have trouble with. They've got to report back to the developers that they're building for, or the owners that's dishing out the cash. They want to know whoever Project Pepsi Mustang, who's ever the owner of this property, they want to know where their money is every week, and where the GC, when it's time to issue more funds. And they're basically graded on how far along in the process they are, and if they're behind schedule or ahead of schedule. So be able to give these guys a tool like this is something they've never had before. The only way for them to show someone progress up until now was, well, let me send our intern Bobby out there with an iPhone, and he'll go grab a bunch of pictures with his iPhone, and he'll show. That's how we're going to document this thing. We'll send those pictures from the iPhone back to the owners and document things that way. Or we'll have our superintendent Bill, he's got a drone they bought at Costco. We'll just have him go send the drone. That doesn't last very long when you understand how this is really supposed to work. So again, another great tool here, this compare tool, to be able to share with a super PM. Again, they've never seen this stuff. We take it for granted every day because we're living and breathing this stuff, but a lot of these guys have never seen something like this before. And
Could I chime in real quick?
Go ahead,
Richard. I just wanted to say, for all the projects that we've been doing, one of the biggest selling points that we've had for our clients is the before and after orthos. As we've been doing both multifamily residential and single family residentials, it's the thing that gets requested the most by my contacts with these groups. Hey, when's that next before and after coming out? Because that tells them an entire story of what happened in 2 weeks. So they don't have to spend a lot of time. They can say the new structures are in, the new rooftops are in. So it's such a powerful selling tool as well. Once you get the project managers to see it and take a few minutes, we had talked the other week, and I think I'd said to you, one of the construction groups we're using right now, just some of these things, they're calling it next level and never seen before. We're all kind of used to it. They're not used to it.
Yeah, great point, Richard. And that's again, we tend to get lost in our world because we live and breathe this stuff every day. But we offer 3 levels of service for our general contractors. Our basic service is photos only, and we do things a little different here. To us, photos only are 3 things. Number 1, hand-flown photos. So we work with you, we work with the superintendent or the PM, and we find out what's going on the site that day. So if it happens to be a cement pour happening that day, or there happens to be a wall tilt going on that day, we want you to go fly around and get some pictures of that, because that's an important thing to these guys. Second thing we offer are the panoramas. And again, this is another wow factor. Believe it or not, guys, we'll go out and have you guys film the site, take the pictures, hand-flown pictures, take the panos, and we'll send all the stuff to the PM and soup, and we'll happen to call them a week or 2 later. We'll be checking in with them. We'll say, hey, what do you guys think about those panos? And they'll, well, what panos? And it's like, these guys are so busy, and their mindset is so into, well, I'm looking for those pretty pictures, because I gotta get those pretty pictures to the owner for my Friday meeting. And if we do, again, if we work as a team and we do nothing more than just educate these guys on, hey, did you know these panel features here? Once these guys see the panos, they'll never not want to have these things to be able to show the owners and to show the a subcontractor, or they'll start using these things on a day-to-day basis. The third thing we do is what's called a photo tour, and you guys are doing this as well. So again, these guys don't even know the value that this even exists, that the one lap around the site where they can kind of make notations on here. They can write in captions that they want to hear. This exports as a PDF, so they can share this with the trades. And this gives them a comparison from last week to the week before, or to last month. So this is kind of what we call our basic package. It's photos, hand flown, it's the panoramas, and it's this photo report that we deliver to them. The second package we go up to from there is we simply add in video. So we ask you guys to go out and fly and capture a bunch of video footage, raw video footage. We've got a team of 4 video editors that are doing nothing all day long but knocking out and taking the 20 minutes of raw video footage that you guys provide to us. They then put that into what we call a best of highlight reel that will deliver a video of that day's flight to our client as well. And we deliver that's just via Vimeo, a Vimeo link that we share with them. And we'll also put it into an MP4 file, so they have the raw video footage to use themselves. And then our third level of service is the mapping service. And mapping is everything that Tony's going over today, all these extra features that from the measurements and the data and any other questions?
I'm curious why the 2D orthomosaics are in the upper tiers rather than in the lower tiers. Like why is it structured that way versus video in the upper and photos in lowers? Just curious if in your experience that's worked for a specific reason.
Well, it's just kind of the direction that the industry has gone. So it's always been, these guys knew nothing about mapping. They really knew nothing about videos early on. So early on it was like, can you guys get us, early on it was like, hey, we need to hire you to get us 4 pictures, one from the north, one from the south, one from the east, and one from the west, facing the center of the site. So in their minds, the simplest low-hanging fruit was get us some pretty pictures for our Friday meeting. We then decided to add on, kind of the upsell would be, okay, if you like the pretty pictures we're doing, let us really wow you. Instead of giving you 4 pictures, we're gonna give you 30 pictures. Instead of just giving you 30 pictures, we're gonna give you a panorama. Instead of just giving you 30 pictures of panorama, we're gonna give you a photo tour. So we wanted to differentiate ourselves from everyone else in the industry and differentiate ourselves, more importantly, from a superintendent with a drone that he bought at Costco thinks he's gonna do what we're gonna do for them. And then it went to, hey, let's really wow these guys with video. And that became the next level package. And then it went to, okay, these guys are now starting to understand all this stuff. Now let's get to kind of the top package. We call it coach, business class, and first class. Let's now wow them with the mapping software as well.
So Andy, would you say that the photos and videos are more for the owner? The contractor has to provide them to the owner, and then the mapping in 3D is for the contractor themselves?
We see things as 2 pillars. One pillar is pretty pictures and pretty pictures and marketing stuff. Things they're going to use for marketing or social media posts and the pretty pictures. The second pillar we see is the data and the analytics. And yes, the owners probably only care about the pictures because they want to be able to, if this site is done in Denver, Colorado, and the owner is in New York City, they just want to see some pictures to know how their money's being spent and where they're at, so the GC's being held accountable. But as the owners get smarter and the owners learn more about this stuff and we educate the owners, they're going to get to the point that they're going to say, you know what, we want, Amazon's a great example. Amazon is the biggest, baddest retailer in the country. They're building like crazy across the country. They set the standard on every job that gets built. They're the owners. Their standard is you're going to fly photos, you're going to fly videos, and you're going to fly maps for us. And you as a GC are going to deliver that to us once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever their standard is for the jobs. So the smart owners, and as they get smarter over time, they're going to ask for more because they know what to ask for, because they're going to be able to look at this map, and someone at Amazon can sit at a computer and go across their 250 jobs across the country and push buttons and say, oh yeah, we're right on schedule. Oh, we're behind schedule. Oh, let's put a little more pressure on these guys here. They can be able to control this a lot better, looking at more than just the pretty picture. So as time goes on, this all will become very important to the owners and the GC. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does somewhat. So who is your client? The GC or the owner?
Our client is 99% of the time it's the GC. The GC calls us and says, here's how silly this is. The GCs will call us. We just started flying a job for Costco in California. I don't know if we have our pilot on for who's ever doing that job in California. I've seen the paperwork. The GC will send us paperwork saying, here's what Costco is demanding of us for these jobs, because they have budget meetings once a month. They need 30 pictures and they've outlined, and I've seen the actual wording in this is literally our wording, that because the people at Costco now know the kind of stuff that we deliver. So it used to be they'd ask for just 10 pictures from 4 corners of the site. Now they're asking for pictures, the panos, and they're going to eventually start asking for the mapping and video. It's typically the GC that says to us, here's what the owner is asking for, and they're not even thinking of themselves. They're not even, when Tony called the project manager for that Costco and said, hey, did you happen to see the first set of pictures we sent you? And hey, can we give some time for us to show you this mapping thing that we do? The lady's answer was, no, I don't have time and I really don't care. I didn't even see the pic. I just forwarded them on to my client and I'm good to go. This is a project manager at a major GC, didn't give a rat's butt about pictures, videos, mapping. They're not even, they're in such reactive mode that all they're caring about is, I got to fulfill this contract with my client, the owner or the developer, and deliver them 40 pictures. And our job is to educate the GC, because once we do that, it will be a gold mine for all of us, because that site that Ron is flying, that's 200-acre site, we're contracted, I think. Ron, are we flying that twice a month right now, or how often are we flying that? Do we lose
Just
him?
once a month right now, Andrew.
Yeah, we should be flying that site once a week. We should be flying that site once a week. And what's going to happen is the next time we get to another site with that team of people, it will go to twice a month, or we'll go to 3 times a month. And a year from today or 2 years from today, it will be that these guys are calling us out there once a week, twice a week. It will get to the point that we're doing this 4 times. We should be doing this almost on a daily basis for these guys, because they'll find out how valuable this data and information is. The other thing I want you guys to understand, and kind of where the future of this is going, drones are there's a term called reality capture. That's a big term right now in this industry. It's reality capture. And reality capture to drone deploy, and the guys that are thinking outside the box on this stuff, is drones, it's 360 cameras, it's robots, it's those little Boston Robotics dog that goes around the sites. We're going to get to the point, one of our clients right now is using a service called Struction Site, which Drone Deploy just bought. And Struction Site is really good at doing the interior stuff. Drone Deploy is not good at doing interior stuff yet, so they bought this company that's really good at it. And the interior stuff is even more important than the outside stuff, because you want to see what's in the walls before the 2x4s go up and before the drywall goes up. They want to document what's going on inside. So the biggest challenge that these GCs face is they don't have the time to hire someone on site, on staff, be flying this stuff. They don't have the FAA certification. They don't have the insurance. They don't want to be monkeying around with the drone. So that's why they hire us. The second thing they're not going to want to be monkeying around with is these 360 cameras and the robots and the capturing the interior stuff. So what's eventually going to happen, which is going to be great for you guys, is we're all going to become just data capture experts, and we're going to become the eyes and ears for these soups and PMs to be able to, hey, you'll put your drone down, you'll go grab your 360 camera, you'll mount it to your hard hat, and you'll say, okay, I'm gonna go inside your building right now, I'm gonna go document that for you. And we're gonna take pain points away from these superintendents and PMs, so that we're gonna become so invaluable to them that we're gonna be handling the whole project for them, from site launch to final landscape shots. To the other thing that we're getting called out on for right now is we're getting hired to do system training videos. A system training video is just another data, some more data we got to capture. We got to capture the video camera. Before on this job right here, when the building goes up and it's done, they've got to hand the keys to this building over to Amazon or to Topgolf or whoever the owner of that building is, and they're going to take control of that building. When they take control, they need to know how to operate the doors that go up and down. They need to know how to operate the fire suppression system. They need to know how to operate the alarm system. So the HVAC system. So we're now getting hired to do system training videos. And who are we relying on for this? Well, we're relying on you guys. You guys are going to get all this work. Our vision is have you guys get the work from the drone to the 360 camera, to putting that down and grabbing a tripod and a DSLR or a high-end iPhone and recording these system training videos, so that we can be out there 4 times a month for 18 months. That's a lot of money for all of us to make, to be capturing data points for these guys and being their eyes and the ears.
Just a heads up, I posted a link in the chat where everyone wants to download it. that's a really good little video that shows the difference that you get when you process a map with and without ground control points. And I believe it touches a little bit on how many they need per size of the site. This company did studies on if more ground control points are actually better, benefits you, or if it gets to a point where there's a cap and it's not really, you know, whether you put down 12 or 15, it's not going to be a difference. So whoever wants, go ahead and download that from the chat. I think it's worthwhile watching.
So Tony, we're coming up, but I know we kind of got off course. It's
Yeah.
9 o'clock here in Detroit. Are there other questions or things we can take a deep dive into on the mapping of how to use the mapping software that you guys want us to cover?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, Tony, are there other kind of big key things here on the mapping thing you want to cover? You want to go back?
Just that if you go back to my screen on the left there, we have many different ways that we can export the map and the data to the clients so that they can use them for different things. Our most popular is we do a PDF map or a JPEG, export the data into all kinds of different ways for them to be able to pull it into their other software or do point clouds, elevations.
Now, when you guys are assigning jobs around the country, are you putting handing out KML files or anything like that?
No, because what I set up all the drone deploy missions, and we assign the pilots a username and password, and then I go over it with them. Or
Okay, so they're all preset.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Unless something gets changed, a lot of the guys that have been doing it for a while can tweak them themselves if they need to. They get out there and there's a crane there, or there's some, you know, trees that are taller than what we thought, or any other obstacles. You know,
Right.
they can tweak the waypoints and stuff if needed, or they just tell me and I do it. Most of it's pre-assigned or pre-programmed, I should say.
Hey, Tony, has anything been mentioned about the issues that I've dealt with the airspace at DIA?
No, you got to refresh me on that one. Which
Launching up and down and not letting me go without going back into the DJI Go 4 app.
Yeah, well, that's which drone were you using again?
Phantom 4.
Yeah. Well, there is a known thing with Drone Deploy when you're in a like in a zero grid airspace where you have to get an actual FAA authorization. If you have a mission that is, and you have to do a battery change on, what you have to do is fly the mission, or you know, the first portion of it, come back, change your battery, and then you have to get out of Drone Deploy and reinitiate your DJI Go 4 or whatever app you're using, and then let that reinitialize and get the get the authorization again, close that, and then open Drone Deploy again, and then it should let you finish.
Now, I don't know if you necessarily want to get clear out of Drone Deploy, do you? Because if you do, it loses right where you're at. It loses everything. I've dealt with that. So what I do, guys, just my method to my madness is pretty much what Tony says. You go into the Go app after you get your custom unlock, make sure everything's good to go. It's got your height restrictions, all the above. Then close the DJI Go, launch your Drone Deploy. It'll come right up, fly your flight. Then when you come down for a battery change, you leave Drone Deploy open because it stops and says, you know, here after you pop your battery out, you leave it still open. Then it will ask you if you want to continue. I leave it at that screen, then go to my DJI Go 4 app on the, obviously for the P4P, and then launch it. Then it tells me, yeah, you're connected. You have this height restriction. I close it, go back to Drone Deploy, and off you go. I've spent tons of frustration with that not working. You know, just figuring out, heck, I got airspace, but you go ahead and launch it after the battery and it just sits there and doesn't do anything, like you're not even connected.
When does that happen most often?
Mapping missions usually.
Mapping missions.
And when you're in controlled airspace.
Yes.
Any other time, I've never had any problem, just in
If
controlled
it's in a
airspace.
link, it doesn't usually happen. But it's when we have to get actual FAA authorization to fly, is when it happens, and Drone Deploy knows about it. They're the ones who gave me the article on how to get it to continue. I want to touch on two quick things really quick. You guys, make sure you're not ignoring the update fly safe database, because if you do, I know you can ignore it and just keep flying and update it later, but oftentimes if you ignore it, your drone deploy will not work properly. That's when you're getting drones hanging halfway through a mission, or will only go up 10 or 20 feet and then just stop. Oftentimes it's because you need to update your fly safe database.
All more on the technology side and learning about drone deploy, and again, all more technology related things. And the second thing we do each month, we're gonna do once a month, we're gonna do a entrepreneurial side, which I lead those, and I think it's in 2 more weeks. You just keep an eye out, you'll get some emails coming out. We did our first one 2 weeks ago. We got our next one in 2 weeks, and every month we kind of cover a new entrepreneurial point. I have been a serial entrepreneur my whole life. I love the whole entrepreneurial world, and I know many of our pilots have got that kind of the entrepreneurial bug as well. And so we're trying to figure out how do we share the things we've learned over the years to make you guys better as entrepreneurs as well. Because our ultimate goal here is to build out the damn best pilot network in the country. We never want to get to the point where we're having you guys bid against each other, and some guy bids $100 to shoot a job for us. I'm gonna come back and I'll do it for $75. We don't want that. We want to pay you guys a fair rate, because we know what it takes to fly this stuff. But more importantly, we want to figure out how to make this into a two-way relationship with our pilots. You guys are getting a lot of work on your own. Fantastic. We want to teach you or help you get more work on your own. We don't want to ever steal your work from you in your local market, but we want you to be able to take a job and put it back into our network to keep feeding other pilots around the country. So for example, if you live in Boulder, Colorado, and someone does a Google search in Boulder for a drone company, they find you, and you go out and do a really good job for that company because they're building an apartment complex or they're building a strip mall. At the end of that project, or at the beginning of the project, we want you to be able to say, hey, if you like the work I've done for you here in Boulder, Colorado, I can do this exact same work for you anywhere in the country. This is how we built our business. We want you guys to build it the same way. If you do that, and if you say the words, I am nationwide, that's going to go a long way to help you guys build your business, and it's going to help you get other jobs outside of your market. And you're not going to be able to get in the car or get in an airplane and fly 3 hours away cost effectively to fly once a month for a client. But if you can take that lead and feed it back into our network, we have the system in place. We'll take and process that lead. We'll get it to a local pilot in that market that your client needs it flown for, and you will get paid for that job as long as it is ongoing. So again, I use the Boulder example. If that client hired you and they also have another apartment complex going up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and you say, if you like the work I'm doing, you like the photos I'm doing, the panels I'm doing, the mapping I'm doing, all these things, I can give you the exact same turnkey solution for your job in Albuquerque. You're going to get that work because these guys don't want to go out and have to try to find another pilot in Albuquerque and train them. And sometimes they're going to get JPEGs, sometimes they're going to get DNGs, sometimes they don't want to deal with that stuff. They want to know that one person is going to handle all this for them, and pilot in Albuquerque is going to get paid to fly it. You're going to get paid for referring it into the system. And we obviously make a little something for being in the middle to coordinate all this stuff. So we talk about stuff like that at the entrepreneurial session once a month, which will happen in 2 weeks. Any other questions we can address for you guys, or any other comments you want to add?
Andrew, hi, Mark Hall from Texas, Houston area.
Hey, Mark.
Thank you for inviting us to this tonight. Being new, do you have a lot of pilots within the Houston, Texas area, or how would we know how many pilots you already have?
So if you go to our homepage, thedronebrothers.com, there should be a upper right-hand corner, there should be a button called pilots. And I believe there is from that page, you'll be able to click on to either learn more, or there's a button on the pilot page that allows you to register with us. So what I would encourage you to do is go there, It's a simple little jot form. It might take you 5 minutes to fill out. We're going to ask you your name, your address, your phone, what kind of equipment you've got, your experience, your price point, and all that kind of stuff. Fill that out. That goes back to Tony's team. That gets put into our CRM, our database. And when we get a job in Houston, you'll be first person we call. We probably have pilots in Houston right now. I'm not in front of that screen to know, but we have pilots all over the country. But once we find someone in the market, we like to keep giving them more work and have relying on them because we've got a relationship built. They're in our system, and we want to grow this together with you. So even if we have someone in Houston, they may be someone in the northeast side of Houston, and you're on the southwest side of Houston, or maybe someone in a different part of the market that we want to be able to find someone that's going to be close enough to the job site that you're not going to have to drive an hour and a half and burn $50 of gas just to get there.
Perfect. I have filled that out already and received the email back. So thank you for that. And one
Cool.
other quick follow-up question. Are you guys going to be at the Drone and Robotic Summit in the Woodlands, Texas, next June 12th through the 14th?
No, I don't. I'm not aware of that. What's that?
It's drone and robotics, I believe. It's a summit.
It's called the Drone and Robotics Summit. I've never heard of it
Yeah.
before. Is this their first year doing it?
I don't believe so. I would have to go back to my email and double check on that. But no, I got an email on it.
It's the 7th annual meeting in the Woodlands.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have our marketing team look into that because that would be there's that. We've always wanted to go to the UAV Expo in Vegas. I've been talking about doing that for the last couple of years. We've never gone, but I think this year we're gonna try to get to the big UAV Expo in Vegas as well because it's good to network.
Yeah, and Mark, I'm in Houston myself, so would love to meet you, and I'll be at that summit.
But I wanted to, just another key point. It's the odds we got two guys from Texas on the phone here on this call. That's great. Again, part of our long-term vision with you guys is I knew on day one because I've been through the .com phase and I've started other businesses and I know what's coming with this in this drone space. Drone brothers are two of my kids, just so a little history for everybody. I come from a very entrepreneurial family, learned from my father. My kids kind of learned from me, and they came to me 9 years ago, so they want to start this business. I told them on day one, guys, there's going to be so much money made in this space over the next 10 years. Figure out how you can partner up with people and don't worry about competition because there's going to be enough work for all of us to make a lot of money. And if we can figure out how this hangar talk and these monthly things become best practice sessions or best idea sessions or helping out a guy, helping out someone else, whether someone else in Arizona, helping a guy out in New York with a best practice. That's what this is all about. And even two guys in Houston, I think it's fantastic. You guys can get together and grab coffee and grab lunch. You're going to come up with something that you're going to be able to work on together, and you guys can go out and take a bigger chunk out of the Houston market than you could individually. So I love that. I love about this whole entrepreneurial world. Any other questions, comments, or feedback?
One quick question about the networking aspect of this. When we say we're nationwide, or we're using our business name, like they hire us independently, we say we're nationwide, we're part of this network, and then we reach out to the network, somebody else goes in and they're flying it as the original referral, or what is that vision like?
The vision is we want to give you guys the tools to be able to say to a client, I am part of a nationwide network. That nationwide network happens to be the Drone Brothers network. We're not looking to steal your business. We're not looking to cut you guys out in any way. We want you to be able to use the words I am nationwide and be able to prove it and be able to say to someone, yeah, all you got to do is take this lead. I'm going to put your lead into this network. We'll give you a form to fill out. And it's basically the name of the project, the location, who to check in with on site. And we will process that just like we process any other order in the system. We'll handle everything for you, and you'll get paid a referral fee on a monthly basis for referring that into the system. That's how we envision it.
Some guys just want to fly drones. They don't want to have to do the back end stuff, the billing, the post-production, all that kind of stuff, or sales. So in that case, if you go in there and you say, you know, I'm representing Drone Brothers, and then you bring us that lead, we take care of all that stuff. And then all you have to do is fly the drone, and you'll get a commission if it's somewhere else, and plus your regular flying thing if you choose to fly it.
And long term, it's going to work in reverse because yeah, someone from Detroit is going to get a job, or someone from
Lafayette,
to get a
Colorado.
job, and they're going to need a flight done in Denver or Boulder or Broomfield, and they're going to say they're going to put it into our system, and we're going to be calling you, and you're going to get paid for flying it twice a month or 4 times a month, and it's becomes a win for everybody.
Yeah, my question next after that is your pricing and how the structure of that breaks down to what goes to the pilots flying the missions and then what goes to the back end. And, you know, if the person on site, on the site that's being flown is doing all of the annotations on the site, how does the deviation of the, you know, the cost for that monthly breakdown?
Yeah, we've got fixed pricing. So we have fixed pricing. So whether someone onboards in Denver or Houston, we're the same pricing anywhere in the country. So that's the win for us and all of our general contractor clients is it's consistency, it's in pricing and the deliverables. We charge the GCX pretty fixed pricing with pilots across the country as far as what we pay pilots for doing a job. Again, there's a price point. If you're just gonna it's a simple job, takes you 10 minutes to grab photos, we have a pay point versus if you're out there for an hour and a half doing a mapping mission, we have a different price point for that. To answer your question, we would charge a fee to the client based on good, better, best package. The pilot would get paid a fixed rate, and you would get paid a fixed commission for the job that gets flown for putting that into the system. For
Can I
that job.
jump in here for a second?
Go ahead, Larry.
If you refer us and we get the job anywhere in the country, you as the referring pilot would receive 20% of the total cost of the first flight, and then you would receive 10% of every subsequent flight. So if that flight is $300, you would receive $60 for the first flight, and then you would receive $30 for every flight thereafter. The other thing that's built into that program is if they call us and add on services. For example, if they call us and add on systems training videos, you would still receive 10% of those additional services. So it's 20% for the first flight and then 10% for the duration. And again, that's simply for a referral. So what you're doing is building this recurring revenue stream, passive revenue.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it helps.
Mason, to Kim, one of the things I think you asked, so the pilots are only collecting the data. Any of the stuff, like any of the annotations and all that would either be us internally, myself, or the general contractor doing that. The pilots won't be doing that kind of sort of stuff. They're just collecting the data and uploading it for us.
The only thing we ask you pilots to do is fly. And if you guys want to knock on the trailer door and check in with the soup and take your iPad out and show them something or ask them if they want to be educated on this stuff, more power. We'd love that, but we're not gonna make you guys go out and do the stockpile volumetric calculations and annotations and all that kind of stuff.
And we have presentations put together for any pilots that want them that they can put on your iPad or laptop when you go into a construction trailer and show them, you know, these are the sorts of things that we can do. These are some of the offerings we can give you. And so we have already got that in place if any of you want that to go knocking on trailer doors.
All right, 9:30, we went way over.
Hey,
Thank you. Thank
That's
you,
not
everybody.
that time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody again for joining, and we will see you in a couple weeks.